Pew pew. Hello, why haven't guns gotten any faster? It seems that since World War II, how fast a gun can actually shoot hasn't gotten any better. And if anything, guns are actually getting slower across the board. We have many computers that can aim for us and developed bullets that can track targets on the fly. So why is it that how fast we can fire our actual guns hasn't really changed in close to 100 years? I mean, the Army's new 250 machine gun fires 50 rounds per minute slower than what it's replacing. Today, I want to talk about rates of fire, why some guns from the 30s fire way faster than anything we have today, why make gun go bang faster is usually a bad idea, and why we don't just give everyone a minigun and shred anything that moves. Beaton's only like and subscribe button, and let's talk about it. Also, I'm going to be saying the words guns and bullets, so if you want to spurg out over the fact that I'm not saying weapon system and round, the comment section's wide open for you. If you were to Google a machine gun's rate of fire, aka how fast it can go bang, you would find a number like this. When most people think of a gun's, quote, rate of fire, they typically think of how many bullets that weapon can shoot per minute. But that's not the true rate of fire, if you want to call it that, because each automatic rifle-style weapon is going to have no less than 3 different rates of fire. First is sustained rate of fire, which is how fast a shooter can realistically fire well-placed, accurate shots in 1 minute. You do this if you're trying to conserve ammo, or you already have established fire superiority and you're just wanting to keep people's heads down. Second is the rapid rate of fire, which puts more emphasis on volume of fire rather than accuracy, and would be used for things like suppressing fire. You're still trying to hit your target, but you're more focused on gaining fire superiority. The third is the cyclic rate of fire, and it's generally what people think of when you say rate of fire. It is physically how fast your gun can shoot, assuming it's fully automatic, and you just hold down the trigger until you run out of batteries for the blicky. Now obviously, if you're rocking a bolt action or a non-select / fully automatic fire gat piece, you can't go cyclic, so disregard those weapon systems for now. So let's dive a little bit more into this topic and pray to the YouTube gods I don't get demonetized for spreading the gospel of riding the lightning. This is the M2 50 cal machine gun, essentially the machine gun at this point in history. It also basically hasn't changed since we adopted it 100 years ago, minus some quality of life improvements. It fires up to 600 rounds per minute. This is the XM312, a sci-fi looking 50 cal machine gun that the United States was testing out as a potential replacement for the venerable M2. This was built to try to solve the biggest issue with the older machine gun, in that it was heavy as shit. But it had one very big downside. It only fired a max rate of 260 rounds per minute, a total snail's pace compared to what it was supposed to be replacing. And that was one of the biggest reasons it never got adopted. So why did we invent a new gun to shoot the same bullet, just slower? Well, that introduces us to our first issue with having a gun with a really high cyclic rate. The higher it is, the harder it is to control, thus making it harder to actually hit anything. Hence why I think illegal Glock switches flooding the streets will actually decrease inner city murder rates. Mag dumping full auto into trash is one of the few things that makes life worth living. However, you won't actually have a life to live at all if you don't actually hit the guy trying to schwack you. See, going full auto is mostly the job of dedicated machine guns. That's what they're for. And even then, you're only going to be going mad minute full cyclic in very specific scenarios. And one of those is if they are mounted to a vehicle. Vehicles, by nature, move around a bit. And that's kind of their thing. If you are moving around, it is simply harder for you to hit your target. Not only because holding a sight picture, even if your gun is stabilized, is more difficult, but because the time you have to engage your target is smaller, and this doubles if your target is also moving. Because that window of opportunity to actually kill the damn thing is smaller, you need to be able to shoot faster to fill that little bit of time with more lead to actually hit your target. The M2's 600 rounds per minute is right on the lower end of that, and the XM312's 260 rounds a minute is way too slow. 260 rounds per minute is not realistically fast enough to hit moving targets as needed reliably. And that's why anti-aircraft guns fire so damn fast, because planes move very quickly, and the window to fire is minuscule. I feel like I didn't need to mention that planes move quickly, but I know at least one guy watching is having like a eureka moment after I just said that, so figured I'd throw it in. A funny thing to think about is that guns not getting any faster is a relatively new phenomenon. For many, many years, increasing the rate of fire directly led to better battlefield results. Breech loaders replaced muskets, bolt actions replaced those, then semi-automatic rifles, and then the various incredibly drippy collection of assault rifles throughout the Cold War. And then they conducted a study that said that during Vietnam, only 1 kill was made every 50,000 rounds fired. That is a very imperfect number that doesn't really describe the nuance of the situation. But it did show the United States that rates of fire going up did not lead to better performance overall. Especially when you look at the fact that the number in World War II was roughly 45,000 rounds per kill, a full 5,000 less. Some reports say that for the war in Afghanistan, that number was as high as 300,000 rounds per kill. Again, very imperfect number to go off of, but still something to consider. That initial Vietnam study led to things like a burst function replacing the full auto function on the M16A2, reducing the overall ammo expenditure by a lot. Emphasis on small arms shifted towards more dedicated shot placement, rather than sheer amount of fire that could be thrown downrange. That led to things like the Advanced Combat Rifle program in 1986, that put more emphasis on rapid bursts and increasing the velocity of the ammunition, rather than shooting faster than the M16 it was supposed to replace. It never actually did replace anything, but we did get the Lord's optic out of it, so for that, I am grateful. Now you might be thinking, Justin, of course guns got faster. Have you ever heard of the minigun, you retard? And to that I say, not everyone has heard of everything, it's literally impossible. But actually to that I say, remember that the minigun has been around since 1963. And if you are a certain 9.1% of my demographic, I have really bad news for you because that was not exactly yesterday. Or the day before. The M134 minigun could blast 7.62 by 51mm rounds at an eye-watering 6,000 rounds per minute. One of the most common places you'll find these things is sticking out the window of a helicopter. And the reason for that is the same reason you put fast-firing machine guns on vehicles. Helicopters, generally speaking, move faster than vehicles on the ground. That higher speed means that their opening to engage their target is even lower. Plus, hitting targets while your pilot is geeked out on gas station amphetamines is not easy. Having a minigun firing at an insane rate of fire means that even with your 99.9% miss rate, you'll at least hit something once. The biggest downside to the M134 is that it fires 7.62 rounds, which is relatively small compared to other vehicle-mounted options, meaning range goes down, along with the types of targets that it can actually engage effectively. That's why the M3 machine gun exists, essentially the brother to the classic M2, specifically designed for helicopter gunners. These fire double the speed, at up to 12 to 1300 rounds per minute, slinging 50 cal rounds faster than a target knows what to do with. So why don't we just give everyone an M3 or Gatling gun so they can just have total overwhelming firepower? Well, as I mentioned in other videos, the amount of ammo you have is your time. The longer you can make your ammo last, the longer you can fight. Sure, if a platoon of guys has a bunch of miniguns on an objective, they would pink mist everyone in their way before the other side could even stick their head out. But if you go black on ammo within the first 5 seconds of trying to take an objective, even if you do smoke all the bad guys in that first burst, you're gonna have to be fixing bayonets when they decide to take it back. The longer you can go without running out of ammo is generally a good thing, but there is more to it than just that. See, we all happen to unfortunately be alive in a very boring time when it comes to small arms military hardware. The difference between a gun 50 years ago and a gun 100 years ago is massive. The difference between a gun 50 years ago and a gun now is like zero, because it's the same gun. One of that is just the sheer limitations of engineering and material sciences that we have run into. When you shoot a gun, it gets hot. The more you shoot a gun, the hotter it gets. And the faster you shoot gun more, the faster the hotter it gets. At least I think that's how physics works. The weapons we do have that are designed to go full auto a lot already have to try to account for this. And despite the fact that since the invention of the machine gun, we've invented things like the internet, space stations, and remote-controlled vibrators, We have yet to find a way to mitigate heat better than just physically swapping out the barrel on a machine gun, and the only improvements in that has been making it easier to do so on the fly. Don't say water-cooled machine gun jackets, because while those are cool, we got rid of them for a reason. That's the entire reason why Gatling guns have multiple barrels, so that each one doesn't get too hot too quickly to keep up the rate of fire. Inside the turret of most tanks, you'll find coaxial machine guns, which are generally just the same machine gun the grunts are carrying around, modified to be fired from a vehicle gunner. Generally speaking, these have higher rates of fire than their dismounted brethren, by adjusting the amount of gas the weapon pushes back to cycle the action. In a tank turret, or any other vehicle that's going to have a coaxially mounted machine gun, you can't just stick your hand in and easily swap out the barrels. So, to get around that, those barrels are typically made much heavier and thicker. If you look at rifles specifically, designed to fire faster than average, like the AN-94 or the G11, which can burst rounds at 18 and 2,000 rounds per minute respectively, you'll notice they were never adopted. Those rates of fire are over twice what something like an M4 AK platform would put out. They're also wildly mechanically complex. There's a reason why the operating systems for both of these rifles typically includes the word magic alongside the country of origin. When the programs for these failed for one reason or another, the desire for a soldier to be able to shoot that fast just wasn't enough to keep pushing the idea, even if those were just their burst fire rates. I do like the G11 promotional video where the guy just keeps smacking himself with the scope though. The more complex you make your design, the less likely and less easy it is that troops on the ground are actually going to have time and the capacity to clean it. Guns would start getting very, very dirty very quickly if they need college level courses in order to just field strip it. That also makes them cost a lot more. More money per gun is generally not seen as a good thing. Unless you're the NGSW program, then you just don't give a shit apparently. Simple blowback weapons have a tendency of shooting fast as shit, but you really only see that in pistol caliber weapons. Plus, the weight to firepower ratio for those things is a lot worse than your traditional assault rifle system, meaning that if you were to scale that system up for rifle rounds, you're getting a very, very heavy weapon for questionable results. And that brings us back to the issue of heat. The lighter something is, the faster it heats up. The heavier something is, the harder it is for a grunt to lug it around. When it comes to the trade-off between a high rate of fire and weight will win every single time. Grunts generally don't bitch if their gun doesn't shoot fast enough in full auto, but they will bitch if their shoelaces are half an ounce too much than they really need to be. And that takes us to the final reason as to why guns have either not gotten any faster, no one is really asking for it. See, we've kind of hit the limit in terms of how fast we realistically want guns to be able to shoot. M4s and their replacements, the XM7, both top out at around 900 rounds per minute. But that 900 rounds per minute number really doesn't mean jack shit. Full auto isn't really a thing when it comes to professional militaries using assault rifles. Even in close quarter combat, semi-automatic fire reigns supreme. The guy with the machine gun in your squad is the one that's going full auto. Even if said machine gun goes down, you simply switch from a sustained rate of fire to rapid rate of fire, but still on semi-automatic. Afterwards, then you'll switch back to a slower rate of fire once the machine gun gets fixed, or a dude with a rifle grabs the machine gun because the original gunner got domed in the noggin. That said, fully automatic is a nice option to have. There's a reason the entire US military switched from burst fire rifles to fully automatic ones. But if you're going cyclic on your rifle, you're in a very oh shit, oh fuck kind of moment. So it really wouldn't make that much of a difference if you fired at 600 rounds per minute or 2,000. If that mag dump didn't solve your problem, well, you quite literally will have zero problems for the rest of eternity. For weapons like the M249, the M240, or the M250, it boils down to just simple arithmetic. Machine guns are built for sustained fully automatic fire. That fully automatic fire is there so that dudes with rifles can maneuver on the baddies. If you burn through all of your ammo because your gat blat's too fast, those dudes trying to do the maneuvering will be naked and afraid without any covering fire. Even if you had enough ammo to go around, reloading a machine gun isn't the smoothest, prettiest thing on earth. It takes a good bit more time than swapping mags out. Additionally, if you have to keep swapping barrels because your gun is starting to glow hotter than a furnace, you're going to be forced to shoot less. A slower rate of fire on a machine gun lets you shoot for longer periods of time, which is generally more useful in a dynamic fighting situation. A guy is going to keep his head down whether or not the burst was 10 rounds or just 3. Lastly, ammo weighs a lot. If you want to shoot more, you have to carry more ammo and all the pain and wonderful misery that comes along with that. So to wrap it up, no, unfortunately, we won't be getting the metal storm gun anytime soon. Plus your squad leader probably wouldn't even let you go full auto on your rifle anyway. That guy's never fun. And on that note, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please subscribe and I will see you in the next one.